Hello comrade and peers. Welcome to part 2 of How to Win More Miniature Wargames. In the first part, we set some definitions for our topic and began with point 1. Know the rules. Perhaps a very basic tip for winning some games, a Binsenweisheit as we call it in Germany, or truism translated in English. But I have seen this problem many times, including the mistake of confusing fluff with rules. At the end I quoted Sun Tzu, "Know your army," and I would like to head back to this point. This is more of a point 1a instead of a new point, but it points directly to some upcoming topics. On the other hand, it's not something for every player, especially the optimistic, aggressive player. So what do I mean by know your army? If I build or raise an army, I usually keep in mind not only their strengths, but more important, their weaknesses. Because I'm a more pessimistic and cautious player, I can imagine the perfect opponent to stop me from winning. How could I beat or better withstand such an optimized adversary? So it's more like know the weakness of your army build. When the game starts, I'm mostly prepared for a very hard game. And when the enemy deploys, there's a relief in seeing quite normal enemies arriving on the field. This gives me the self-esteem, the self-assurance to accept the challenge with a smile. Because it could have been worse. An easier game as expected. But this trick is more for people who don't trust themselves to win, and are perhaps impressed by the sight of miniatures set up, like me. My second advice, point 2, might seem obvious too. Make a plan. You have the tool and the know-how. Now decide how you use it. Do you strengthen one of your flanks to advance from there, or do you put everything in the center? There are many options, which we may talk about in a later video, but you should have some kind of plan. No operational plan extends with any certainty beyond the first encounter with the main enemy force, as Clausewitz said. Or shorter, no plan survives the first contact with the enemy, quoting Moltke. But that should be no excuse to enter the field without a plan. It only states the need to adapt and change like water to blocking terrain. To come back to Sun Tzu. Every plan is better than no plan. If you really want to get better in wargaming, make some notice or sketch of your plan and discuss it with your opponent after the match, taking a drink. There's no better way to learn than by feedback of others. Perhaps your partner has some tips, what worked and what didn't. Use the opportunity for a debriefing and exchange of thoughts. This will at least make you a better teammate. And while we are on the subject of planning, there's one thing it should include. Take the initiative. And to be clear, it doesn't mean you always have to charge or to have the first move. Whoever drives the game forward and determines the actions on the field has the initiative. Anyone who simply reacts to the circumstances does not have the initiative. In most cases, the active player who forces his opponent to act will win the game. Not every game, but most of it. The force which only reacts has to hope that the enemy will make mistakes, and hope is no basis for a solid plan. The more active player can still lose, because anyone who does something can also make mistakes. But these are your mistakes and a chance to learn. By the way, this also works for defensive strategies. In the old times of Warhammer Fantasy, I often played the Empire as a defense aggressive force. The enemy was harassed with light troops and missile fire to lure him into attack. The aim was to push him to proceed as quickly as possible, and so attacking piecemeal without flank protection. This was a signal for a counterattack that unbalanced most players who had expected a pure line of defense and weren't prepared for such an aggressive behavior. But what to do if your opponent had the first move and is now aggressively using the initiative against you? To get it back, you must stop to act. This is daring and has its risks. But it's the only way. Do some unexpected move in parts of the battlefield where there's not much action. Threaten or challenge some more elite or say costly unit of his. Should he react to this, he has lost the initiative, you can start to attack. It's not about actually threatening the other army, but rather about presenting a possible threat. Present some kind of feint to throw the other player off guard and to mislead him to a reaction, giving up its initiative. Such things have been taken even further throughout history. Alexander the Great had the habit of attacking the enemy in his strongest position, because he knew this was the weakest point in the mind of his opponent. That's why this place in the line was so well protected. He attacked the will of the opponent and not only his troops. These types of games are often mind games, battles of wills. If someone thinks he has lost, he will lose. One trick to unsettle your opponent is to deny him the initiative. If you can only react, you assume that you have lost control, and this feels like a defeat. But don't overdo this. Play nice. We are all friends here and should behave like this. Dominating a game too much can make you win a match, but losing a teammate for your games. And as I said in the first part, winning isn't everything. And winning can even mean winning new friends. This is another reason why a debriefing conversation after the game can be nice, also to relieve some tension. This sounds like some nice closing words. We are slowly moving from the general to the specific. I hope you had some fun and I was able to offer you some new perspectives or thoughts. If you already have experience with what I said or have tried it, please let me know in the comments. Here too, an exchange of opinions can only help. In this sense, till then, and take care.